Anderson. I'm a teaching artist with the Mayhaw Arts Alliance here in Twisp, Washington. Today we're going to draw a pencil drawing, a sketch of a bumblebee. And all you're going to need is some kind of a pencil. I like mechanical pencils, but a regular old pencil is just fine. Some kind of a good eraser, a big pink one, an art gum eraser, or one of these white ones, these white vinyl ones are my favorites. And if you get a chance, these little guys are very, very handy when you're doing a lot of pencil drawing. It's just a eraser deal, and they're not very expensive. Okay, so I drew this one this morning, and then I turned around and I drew this one, and for me, I found that drawing it on a larger sheet of paper was just kind of a lot easier because there's a lot of detail. So this is regular 8.5 by 11 paper. You could use that, have it horizontal like this, or if you've got access to this, you might want to use a bigger piece of paper. Okay, so today we're using pencil, and we're going to be doing a lot of real light, sketchy lines. It's pretty important that you make them light and sketchy because you're going to be erasing them. So when I say sketchy, first thing I want you to do is make a line right down the center of your page like this. And you can see that this is a light line, and it doesn't have to be perfect at all. It's going to be erased eventually, but it's important. Next thing you're going to do is go right to the center of this, and you are going to make a circle, and this circle is, it's about as big as if you cut an egg in half, but who wants to cut an egg in half? It's kind of like about the size of maybe a $50 if you've seen one of those. Okay, so that is the very first circle. Now what we're doing, and one thing I think is really important about this lesson is it's all about what we call mapping. We're mapping out a drawing. Some people call these basic shapes construction lines, layout lines, mapping lines. So I've got a circle, and now I'm going to go to about the middle, and I'm going to overlap an oval. And the oval is going to be about the same width as the circle. And so we're drawing a bumblebee, and the part we're drawing right now is the abdomen. That part that we drew first is the thorax. So it doesn't matter if you get this perfectly correct. You know, you just kind of keep going at it till you think you've got it. Okay. So we got the thorax, we've got the abdomen, and then we go up to the top, and we're making kind of a half circle up here, kind of like an upside down U, and that is the bee's head. And see, we've got this line going down the center. Now we want to, for the eyes, we want to make a couple lines on either side of that center line. Okay. So, next thing we do is we're going to start on the wings. And I'm going to turn my paper like this because it's easiest for me. And I'm going to make a straight line, goes out about like so on either side. Okay. And then I'm going to go to that center again, and I'm going to make a line going up at an angle like so. It's going to kind of come to about the same level. These are construction lines. These are layout lines. And for some things, these are so incredibly useful that I use them all the time. I don't use them for everything. There's different ways of drawing, but something like an insect like this, insects are symmetrical. That means that one side is a mirror image of the other side. And so if you map it like this, it makes it a whole lot easier for you. Okay, then we're going to go up here. We're going to have this line coming down at an angle. So it's going to cross this line here and just kind of fades out. Same thing over here. We just come down, cut off the end of that like so. So here's we got, right now it looks like very mechanical, but we're going to change it up a little bit. Okay, with the bottom, this is going to be the bottom wing, and we're going to make kind of a curvy line that comes like that right up to the lower part of the thorax, and the same thing here. And remember to move your paper around to get it in whatever position is comfortable for you, because it makes a big difference. Now I could see already that I didn't take this out quite far enough, and luckily since I'm at the beginning I could just change that, and I don't even have to erase anything yet. Okay, let's see. How about, let's do the antennas. So the antennas, they come out right at the inside edge of the eye. They start out going to the side, both of them the same way. Although I suppose when these bumblebees are busy working, these antennas are moving around. And then I just want you to go up kind of like this with a line that curves in towards that center line. And these are the layout lines. We're going to go into a lot more detail in a few minutes. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is make a guideline out here for the front legs. Notice again, really sketchy. We're going to make a guideline for the lower legs. So we'll go down about, kind of go right along the bottom of this wing and get about halfway and then taper it down like so. And it's kind of good to just do both sides at the same time, because then you don't forget anything, you don't get so mixed up, you just go back and forth. So there's the guidelines for that. And then we go down the abdomen a little bit, and we do the guidelines for the lower legs. They're about, come out about the middle of the abdomen here. So now we've just got a crazy looking bunch of lines and a bunch of shapes, and we're going to make it into a bumblebee. I happen to really like bumblebees. I've always liked bumblebees. I remember first noticing I liked them when I was maybe 12 in my backyard in California. There was an apricot tree that was in full blossom, and there were bumblebees all over it. And I liked the smell of the blossoms, but I also just noticed the bees seemed really friendly. And they are. And that's one thing I want you to know about bumblebees. They're not harmful at all. Okay, so we've got those done. Now let's do a little more work on the wings. So with the wings, what we want to do is we want to go over to here, the side of the thorax, and we're going to just kind of like go along this line, but we're going to go bulging up above it, and then come back down to this corner and kind of cut that corner off. So the guideline is here, and we used it, but we don't draw right along it. So we looped up, we cut down like that, we come down like so, and then we just kind of fade in to about here. So, and you'll be working on this outline later. Now for the other side, for me, it's easiest to turn the page. But I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go out along the line. I'm going to go looping up. I'm going to come back down and cut off that corner. And go down like this and cut that lower corner. And it doesn't matter that my line's a little raggedy, because I'm going to fix it later. We don't have to worry about that yet. Okay. So those are the top wings. The bottom wings, you're going to, about in the middle here, round it off. Come down here, round that off. And then it does this kind of cool thing. It kind of goes along here, and when it gets about here, it kind of scoops up like that, where it attaches to the bee's body. Same thing on the other side. You come out, you round, you come back, you get to about that knee joint there, and you make this loopy thing going in like this. And they don't have to be perfect. Mine's not going to be perfect. We're just concerned about getting better. We're not concerned about making things perfect. Okay, so that is that. And now, actually, we could get rid of some of our extra lines already. So, take whatever eraser you have, and these construction lines that I said to draw so lightly, you get to take those out. You leave the ones that you curved and, you know, kind of adapted, but the guidelines that were just there to show you where to put the final lines, you take out, and then you'll be able to see more what you're doing. And this is where having a really good eraser helps. I like to use these. I know you might not have one, but if you do get one and you use it, you erase in circles. You do the same thing with this one. You erase in circles. You don't go like that back and forth, because what that does is it creates friction, it creates heat, and that could make your paper get stained. So I've got this to do, so I take my eraser and I'm just going around and around with it. And then what's cool is, look, I get to take all of this stuff out of the center of that circle. So that's really a big change. And you might go, what? I drew those lines, now I'm erasing them? Yeah, you're erasing them, but those lines really helped you figure out where everything went. Okay, so I think I got that. That's probably good enough. Alrighty. Why don't you guys take a minute, we'll pause the video for just a minute, and just make sure you've kind of caught up on these guidelines before we go on. Okay, so first thing I want you to do is divide these legs into 3 equal sections, just by making a little line across there, line across there, across there, across there. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you want to make a bit of a line there, and a bit of a line there, where that knee of that bee is, the bee's knee. And then a line here. So you've got 1, 2, 3 sections here, and one here. And then with this one here, you want to divide that into 2 sections as well. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, and 1, 2. And then we're going to divide that there too. Okay, so that's the start of the legs. Now, I made this part a little bit long. I'm going to back it up a little bit. So these legs have segments, and they're basically kind of like ovals. They're kind of like half an oval. You just kind of go like this. They're kind of really fat at the bottom. So see how that's kind of like a U? And same thing over here. They're called jointed legs. These are joints here. Okay. And then the next step is, I made that a little bit long too. I think I just made the legs a little bit long. Okay. And then they get skinnier as they go. So this one goes like that. And these little lines that are left inside, you're not even going to need to erase them, because we're going to shade over them. The very last segment where the feet are, there, they curve a little bit inward and they're really skinny. So you round it off at the end and it comes back down like so. And again, it goes in a little bit. It's skinnier than the others. Okay, that's as far as we're going to take that right now. Now with this middle pair of legs, this is kind of goes up from the body, and they're kind of much wider at this joint that they are where they leave the body. So it's kind of like so. All right? And then this next one comes down, and it kind of curves in like so. It's going to be skinnier. It goes kind of down like this here. So you've got a fatter one and a thinner one, and then the next one, just like the top ones, this foot part goes out like so. It kind of curves outward. Same thing over here. Comes out from the body, gets wider. Curves like so, like that. And then it goes curving out and back. And at any time, if I'm moving too fast, go ahead and pause the video. Sometimes it helps just to watch a person draw and talk about it and then freeze it and see what they did. But I'm going to keep going. So these joints right here are just like little half circles where the last pair of legs come out. They're just like a C and a backwards C. That's where it hinges onto the body. And these ones are kind of interesting because they curve like so, and they curve out like this. And then these ones where they join the other legs, they have like this angle, kind of like an upside down V. So go like so, and like this, really wide, wider than any other part of any leg, and like that. And the next part just goes like that. It's kind of like, these are like little cups, like so. And then again, the very last segment curves out a little bit. Both of these curve the same way. And the last segment comes out like this. So I do want you to know that bumblebees are the least likely bees to ever sting you. Sometimes people see a bumblebee and they're so big, it's like, ah, but they're not aggressive. They really don't. The only way they'll sting you probably is if you accidentally grab them in your fingers, or if they're inside a flower and eat the flower or something like that. They just, and they're furry, and you could actually go up to them and pet them. And I think that's kind of cool that you could pet a bumblebee. They don't really seem to mind. Okay, so why don't you take just a couple of minutes to finish with these leg segments. And if you don't get them perfect, don't panic at all, because we're going to go over and color them in, and it'll be pretty easy. So why don't you stop the video for just a sec. Okay, this next part's kind of fun. I like this part. I don't know if you realize it, but bumblebees are very furry. And so this is going to be a big furry portion. That's going to be furry. There's fur on the legs and there's fur on the head. And making fur is really pretty easy. You're going to start right here, and you're just going to like, whoop, make a little hair. And the hairs are going to go this way. And on this direction, they go this way. And I'm going to turn this. And this is like not precise. You just add all these little hairs on the outside, and as you go around the circle, they start going down until they get to the center. And then when they get to the center, you start going the other way with them, see? I think it's easiest for me to start at the top. So just these little, sharp little lines. You make these lines kind of dark. We've been making everything light, but these ones, you don't want them to get lost. So look at that, suddenly a fuzzy little ball. Okay, now you're going to make a circle inside the thorax, but it's going to be in the lower part of the thorax. And it's just a kind of a light suggestion here. And this is because this is a very round part of the body, and we're going to help make it look round by pretending that light is falling on it. So now that you've got this here, use this as a guide to put another layer of these little fuzzy hairs. And they don't have to be the least bit perfect at all. And this part is, the whole thing is going to be not dark, but the whole thing is going to be shaded. So why don't you go ahead with your pencil and shade it. I'm just shading very kind of rapidly, but I'm going in the same direction. There's a whole bunch of different ways to shade, and I'll show you some different ways, okay? Now this center part is shaded more, and so I'm going to do something called cross-hatching. Cross-hatching is where I make these lines, but they go a different way. And cross-hatching is something that artists have used forever. If you look at, particularly if you look at pen and ink drawings, you'll see some really careful cross-hatching. It's just one way to shade. It's used a lot with pen and ink. Okay. Now, this could be even darker, but it's really up to you. If you put too much pencil on, then you're going to drag your hand across it, and your hand's going to get all smudgy, and your picture might get smudgy. Okay, this is the lower part where the light isn't hitting it so much. So I'm going to kind of like shade this whole lower part a lot more and kind of blend things. I don't want too much of a difference in the color. Okay. Now this lower part is the same thing. You start going out with these cool little hairs, kind of like little wow, 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 little ninja marks. Boo, boo, boo. Sometimes making sound effects helps, but if there's a whole classroom, it might get kind of intense. But I've done that when I teach drawing classes where everybody's going boo, 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 boo. You don't have to do that. I feel kind of silly doing that myself, actually. And again, I am taking these little hairs, and they're all coming towards each other down here. Now I'm going to make, they have these cool stripes. They have a kind of a thin stripe up here, so make yourself a kind of a curvy line here. And Bumblebees, the type that I'm used to, is they're yellow and black. So this will have black and yellow. And then I'm going to go down further and make another stripe. And then this last one is much wider, like so. So if you were going to color this, we're not going to color this today, but if you were going to color it, it would be black, and yellow. I'm making these just really kind of light. They're just guidelines. And now I'm going to add more hairs. You do a lot of drawn hair and fur on this. So this gets furry, and you can just do it pretty quick. It doesn't have to be very exact. And this gets kind of colored in sort of dark, because this is one of the black stripes. Kind of blend those so they kind of blends a little bit. Okay. And then these guys are furry. Just kind of going along that edge with these furry little hairs, and same thing down here. I'm kind of pulling these little hairy bits towards me. And again, they curve around and they kind of come to a place where they meet. And then this whole stripe is going to be kind of colored in. And we'll go smooth things out when we get closer to the end. But for now, we're just kind of still laying stuff out. Another style of shading that's really quick is this circular shading, this kind of scribble shading. You could just go really fast, and you just layer it and layer it and layer it until you get it the darkness that you want it. So I use them kind of interchangeably. And if you do this circular stuff and then you want it to look more, you know, a little different, you can do cross-hatching right on top of it. Okay, there's a lot of the hair. Oh, a little bit more hair right up on the head. You've got these little hairs going out and sticking right out like a little mohawk at the top and down like so. And then you kind of fill that in a little bit. Okay. Maybe you should stop and do a little bit more fur, and then we'll keep going. I don't want anybody to feel rushed. There's no reason to be rushed on this at all. Okay, so for the legs, it's really easy. What you're going to do is do some deep shading on the underside and then just kind of blend it up as you go further. Real deep shading, blend it up, deep shading and blend it. Turn your paper, darker on the bottom, gets lighter, darker on the bottom, gets lighter. These guys here, the same thing. The bottom part is a real thick, dark band. And then it lightens up. Same thing with each segment. Dark on the bottom. The whole thing's colored black, but it's darkest on the bottom. These little half circle things get colored in totally dark. These guys, the inside is very dark. And then it gets a little bit lighter. Same thing here. And same thing here. Now I'm kind of going through this a little bit quickly, and it's kind of repetitive, so again, feel free to turn this off at some point and just finish it up so nobody's, freaking out and going, what's this guy crazy? He's going too fast. Okay, so look at that. We got all the legs done in just a minute. Okay, the eyes. The eyes, you just bulge them out a little bit like so. You bulge it out that way, like so. The antennas, you just thicken them. And then they go up like so and kind of curl in. I think that looks pretty cool. And again, up here. Okay. So now the wings. Go on the wings and just kind of, one thing you want to do is these bottom wings, they'll kind of overlap like so. Over here the same thing. These wings overlap. Might be good so that you don't forget to take these out. And we don't have very much to go. The lacy part of the wings is something that I think looks kind of cool. And here's what we do. We're going to make the top of this wing, we're going to go up from here, and we're going to make kind of a thick line going down like that. It's a tapering line, and then we're going to color that in black. We're going to go over here, do the same thing. I'm going to start at the bottom, make it thick. And it goes out and tapers, and then fill that in with black. Okay, the very last step, the lace in the wings. Go up here and make a line going like so, a line going like so, another line going like that, one going like that, a loop up here, a loop up here. Let's see what else. A little loop like going up like that, one like that, and one like this. And these, you know what, don't worry about if these are exact, it doesn't really matter. I mean, who really knows how butterfly wings are? Over here we go up like that. We have one going like so, and like so, and like so, and so, and so. And on the bottom it's even easier. We're just going to come right out and have one kind of dangling in space like so. And one comes down like that, and like that, and out like that, and out like that, and over like that. Like so, and again, don't worry if yours is just like this. Okay, that, my friends, is a bumblebee. And this is the first time I have drawn a bumblebee this detailed. And so when I draw other bumblebees, I kind of have something to go on now. Okay, so the next lesson I'm going to do is going to be on pollinators. The bumblebee is a very important pollinator, but I'm not going to talk a lot about pollination. I'm going to mention like butterflies, hummingbirds, a couple of other things. I wore a shirt today that I have never worn before. It says, "Save the bumblebee." And bumblebees are in a lot of danger. There's not as many as there used to be. And if you want to help save the bumblebee, there's one thing I can think of you could do. If you know anybody that uses Roundup, say, "Hey, I heard Roundup hurts the bees." And they might say, "Oh, that's just a bunch of baloney." But if they look it up, they can find out it does. And a lot of times people use Roundup to kill dandelions. And guess what? Dandelions aren't bad. In fact, dandelions are one of the first things that produces pollen that pollinators use in the spring. So, you know, if you like bumblebees, protect dandelions, try to get people not to use Roundup. That's all I've got to say.